So our presentation today, it's been a heavy day for those of you who are here this morning, and important stuff, and but intense. So we decided that last year we did a presentation about rescue, and this year we're going to tell you a story, kind of a fun story. Paula and I were lucky enough to go with Mark and Lorenza and Kim and Trish and Beth and
Casey. I mean, we had plan B to save wolves, Apex, Trap Free Montana, Wolves of the Rockies. We all wanted to get together and do some brainstorming. So what better place to do that than in Yellowstone? So Mark and Lorenza invited us out to Yellowstone this past November, and we all got together for a powwow.
So while we were there, we got to dork out with Doug Smith, the head of the biology program, and Rick McIntyre, one of the head behaviorists there in Yellowstone. We've been watching the wolves like forever, and we got to hang out and talk to them. And one of the things that Doug said that really stuck with us was in Yellowstone, there's no really happy endings. Wolf's life is a rough life. But along that short journey, which in Yellowstone is an average of about 5 years, they have a lot to teach us. They have integrity, they have trust, they have companionship, they have family. And the structure of the community is so pure and so beautiful, and if we could all live like wolves, we'd probably live a better life. One thing that we noticed as we're watching through the spotting scope was that a lot of the wild wolves, we're watching the Junction Butte Pack down in the Lamar Valley, a lot of the wild wolves, their behavior was very similar to our captive bred wolf dogs that we've rescued. So we decided to do a presentation today about the similarities and the behaviors of wild wolves versus the ones that live with us. And it's an interesting story, but we decided to call the story From Outcast to Alpha, the story of Taboo and how we built our pack.
And just to preface this, guys, we are not wolf biologists. We are not wolf behavioral specialists. Those guys are in the audience, and for you to come and speak with today. We are advocates, and we're very passionate about this, and that's why we're getting them to come and do that work for us. But what we do have is we have 9 years of hands-on experience working with these animals on a daily basis, so we've been able to practice and observe. So what we're talking about today is really what we personally have been able to observe, which might be a little different from other people. But in the wild, we just want to obviously point out that a wolf pack is just a family. You've got your alphas, the parents, and then you've got your first litter. Generally, that's where the beta will come out from, a big, strong wolf, and all the subsequent litters that come afterwards, and essentially, they are just a family.
But how do I know if I'm an alpha? So, a lot of scientists and a lot of research, and if you read the books, sometimes they say, even in the Dutch's movie, Living with Wolves, they can say, even as puppies, they could see the alpha. They could see who was going to be the boss. But then, when you look at some of the Yellowstone stories, some of the most unlikely creatures have left their pack, found a mate, had a family, and become magnificent leaders of their own packs. Right? So an alpha can come from anywhere. An alpha could have been the omega of the pack, or the lowest ranking animal, and then went off to start a family and become this magnificent leader. So they can come out of anywhere, and that's kind of our story today.
But that's in the wild. So what happens when a captive bred pack is formed with rescued animals from all different life situations? Now here, we thought it would be fun to just show you a couple of common behaviors happening from packs in the wild.
I got a pointer.
Oh, you've got a ooh.
I got it.
Look how professional.
Look what I got.
And on the other side, what you're seeing is the same behaviors with our own members. We've got Kona and Loki at the top there. And then here we've got this guy, he's resource guarding his beautiful elk leg. And then on the right we have Sarge guarding his pumpkin.
Similar, but not. And then there's other kind of behaviors in the wild that we've noticed that happen in captivity too. And Paula, you want to talk about that one?
I think we can move on.
Okay, good. So like every good story, it starts with once upon a time. And once upon a time, there was a wolf dog called Taboo. We were both a little less gray back then. But Taboo is this big, beautiful 1-year-old. And here's the thing. Taboo's story we've been telling, and we must have told about 1,000 times in the last 8 years, 7 years. And we've told it, and it takes about 15 minutes to tell the story. But it's important to know where Taboo came from in order to find out how she became an alpha. So we're going to tell the same story, and we're going to do a version of Taboo's story.
Starting with how we found her.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Go.
So Steve's back with Zabby had been in bed for a whole entire week, and we were finally getting him in the car. He hobbled to the car, we got him in the car to go to the chiropractor.
We drive into the chiropractor, and this guy calls us and he says, hey, there's a wolf dog in a pound, a black wolf dog, and she's in danger and she needs to be helped. You need to help.
So I looked at Steve and I said, well, forget your chiropractor, we're going to rescue this wolf dog. So we started calling all of the rescues to find out if there was a wolf dog, and of course none of them even had a black dog.
So then I called him back and I said, listen, there's no wolf dogs in a pound. What are you talking about? He goes, oh, I just found out from this lady that she's tied up in the backyard and the people have moved. And I said, well, where's the address? And he said, I don't know. I can't tell you. The woman won't tell me. She doesn't want to get into trouble. But I can tell you the name of the street. It's Community Street in Northridge.
So we were panicking because we thought, oh God, how long has this animal been tied in the backyard of an empty house? Obviously this dog hasn't been fed or watered, it's probably dying, we've got to find this animal. So we Googled Community Street and we saw, oh, it's just a little cul-de-sac, this will be a piece of cake.
It turned out to be about 30 cul-de-sacs in a row. It was about 8 miles long.
So we just decided to start at the top and work our way down.
So we talked to everybody. First guy we met was a Native American guy. He told me about how he ate beans and rice and why he was so slim. He was 82 years old. He was in the Second World War and he built his own house. He showed me how to shake hands like a Native American so you can feel each other's pulses.
But had he seen a wolf dog?
No.
So we continued on our way, and then we finally met this crazy old lady who was kind of like Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched, and she started telling us about every single neighbor in the neighborhood, all the drama and gossip and everything. And finally, after about half an hour, we said, well, has anybody seen a wolf dog?
No.
So we said, oh my God, okay, let's just keep on going. So now another mile down the road, and finally this young lady's jogging by, and Steve approaches her, hobbling up, all covered in cat hair and all shaggy and everything, scaring the heck out of her.
I've been in bed for a week.
And he says, hey, stop. And she goes, what do you want? And he says, have you seen a wolf dog in this neighborhood? We gave her the whole description and everything. She said, I just moved to the neighborhood, but I've got a friend who knows everybody in this neighborhood, and she'll know. So she got on the phone, called her, and the woman said, I'll be right over. And literally within 5 seconds, she was there.
And she said, this is the house. There's a black animal that keeps popping its head up over the fence and over the wall, and I keep seeing it every day, but I think the people have moved out, but I don't know. And then we go to the house, and the guy actually hadn't moved out. He was moving out. And so I bravely sent Paula up the driveway so I didn't get shot.
So I bravely went up to the door, and I knocked on the door, and this big kind of scary guy opened the door, and he said, what do you want? And I said, oh, well, we heard, got an anonymous call that you have a wolf dog that you're looking for a rescue for.
Anonymous? Who told you?
That's what anonymous means, sir. We have no idea. But we're here, and we're here to help rescue your wolf dog.
So he said, yes, I do. Can you take her right now? And we said, we'd only been doing this for about a year. We knew nothing about rescuing. And we said, sure.
Steve was driving a Mustang.
So this big, black, beautiful 1-year-old wildling on the end of a leash comes out, and she's so sweet and beautiful, and she's jumping everywhere, and we throw her in the back of a tiny little Mustang.
And she continues on the way up, 45 minutes to the rescue that we were volunteering at the time, burping and farting on me the entire way because she was nervous.
So we got to the rescue, and that is how we rescued Taboo. Be short, very so Taboo was very, very fearful. She'd been tied up behind a brick wall for a year of her life on a tether to a tree. The people were really nice to her, but they couldn't handle her, and they didn't know how to take her out because she wanted to attack everything. And because she'd been behind a brick wall for so long, and she'd never seen any other animals, she had fear aggression like we'd never seen. And we didn't know what to do. So we started researching and reading, and this is how we learned. Taboo taught us more about wolf behavior and wolf dogs than we ever knew before. And we went to experts. We saw this woman on Caesar Milan, and we paid like $500 an hour to train with her. And she told us that Taboo should probably be locked up behind the fence and not be with kids ever or other animals. But for some reason, we just didn't believe it. So
yeah, we kept looking, we kept researching, we kept reaching out to other people who had lots of wolf dog experience. And finally, we came across Nicole Wild. And if any of you are familiar with her, she's one of the experts in the world on wolf dog, captive wolf dog behavior. And so we started talking to her and reading her books and practicing what she was teaching us.
So, in fact, her books are for sale on our table, and Loki is now on the cover, so that's a full circle thing for us. But she really helped us learn with taboo, and we spent 2 years. We spent 2 years not sleeping together because we wanted to sleep on a sofa bed in the living room, which was boarded up, and the windows were boarded so she couldn't jump out because we lived in a small apartment at the time. And then we had a chain link fence in the middle, and the cats were in the bedroom, and Paula, and we'd swap back and forth. It was just like, it was crazy. We had cameras. And then we started taking her for walks in one of the busiest dog areas in town called Runyon Canyon in LA, where everybody takes their dogs because we really wanted her to experience. And so we worked with directing her energy. And at one point, I said to Paula, one day Taboo is going to walk through here, and she's going to walk through here off leash. And we laughed. I mean, we really were like, yeah, that's not going to happen. About a year and a half later, we're walking through Runyon Canyon with Taboo off leash, greeting all the other animals and being a well-balanced pup. And she taught us a lot more than we taught her. But we've grown together and she's become our alpha. But
after we were able to get her to a place of feeling well-balanced, helping to reduce that fear of the unknown, our goal, we really wanted to find her a canine friend. And so finally, you can imagine Boo's first friend, who that might be. A young, sexy, strapping, wild beast that was able to tame the wild heart of Taboo.
And his name was Eddie.
Eddie was the pup of two of our best friends who were willing to help bring them together, and she fell madly in love with him and he with her. And it's cute. I'm just going to kind of take a little aside here. The first time we watched and all of that, and this was the first time she had ever really jumped on her head. She opened her mouth. He's sitting in her mouth, and we're going, red wolf dogs. And that wasn't really possible there, so we decided to take that leap, step off the ledge, and start Apex Protection Project.
And at that point, we had probably rescued, or helped rescue and rehabilitate over about 40 animals at that point. Now I think we're close to 70 with other people, but...
At the time when we started Apex, we really weren't thinking in terms of being a rescue or a sanctuary. It was more focused on advocacy and education. But because we had worked with so many animals and had all of that time building relationships with people in the wolf and wolf dog, captive bred community and helping with rescue, we'd already kind of gotten known. So the minute Apex was formed, we got inundated with calls from all of our advocacy friends going, hey, guys, we got an animal for you to take. And then we're here, oh, you want to take this guy? You want to take that guy? And we're suckers. Of course, we're not going to say no.
So along came Kona. And Kona actually came from, most of the rescues that we rescue are, coming from horrible situations, usually abandoned, abused, neglected, or one thing or another. But Kona actually came from a really wonderful young man.
Yeah, he was. He took a year off from work, literally, and was lucky enough to be able to do so because he wanted to give this animal the best upbringing that he could. And that's very commendable. He read all the books, he called all of the experts and got advice from them, and he did everything he could to have a well-balanced, happy, loved animal. But of course, eventually he had to rejoin the workforce, but his career took him to New York City. That was really the only place where he was able to get the work that he needed to get. So he ended up, bringing Kona to Apex, and Kona became Apex's very first official rescue.
And this is where it got interesting. All of a sudden, Taboo, who was this wildling who wanted to attack everything, and she'd already become pretty well balanced, but she started to take over as the alpha. And we had spent years working with Taboo on recall because we really wanted her to be able to run, and watching her run was the most amazing thing, and giving her that kind of freedom. And so we figured we're going to have to go through it all again with Kona. But no, what happened was Kona started to teach Taboo. Taboo started to teach Kona, and backwards on that.
I'm sure he taught her a few things too.
But so everything that we had taught her, he learned within months. And he wasn't learning it from us, he was learning it from her. And so he actually became not really her alpha, became more of her beta because he was a young man and he was kind of immature and silly and puppy-like. But she taught him everything, and within months, Kona was running off leash as well and coming back and following Taboo. We'll send her right over.
And then there were 3, or 5 I should say, 3 on the floor, 4 on the floor. So it wasn't long after that we got a call from a rescue friend of ours, and she said, I just confiscated 3 tiny wolf dog pups and their mother from a really horrible backyard breeding situation in Orange County. The mother is dying, and she's been nursing these puppies, and they're very sick. So I need to get this mother to urgent care immediately, and I need to take these puppies somewhere. Would you take them? And Steve said, yes, sure, not knowing what the heck we were getting ourselves into. So she did. She got the mother to urgent care, where she was treated and healed, but the puppies came to us at 3.5 weeks old. Pretty undernourished, and because obviously her breast milk was not filled with the nutrients that the puppies needed because she was so sick. So we had our work cut out for us.
We called Wolf Park, we called everybody we knew to get a formula that we could use, and we got up every morning, fix a formula, and at this point in this picture, we and our hats, before we go any further, go off to all of you parents out there, because we only went through it for about 2.5, 3 months, but every 2 hours getting up in the night to feed them was probably the most exhausting time of our life. And so rather than tell you about it, and all of the stories about me running around Target trying to find the right teats with all the mothers going, I'm just going to show you the video. This is a video taken at about 3 a.m., as you can see by the bags under my eyes, one night in the middle of feeding.
So the mother would normally feed them and then give them a little bath with her tongue, make sure they're nice and clean. When we first got these guys, it was only Sunday, and it's, Saturday morning now, early Saturday morning, Friday night. And they've grown 10 ounces each, about. And in that time, they're already developing little personalities. She's pooping over them. And we were so delicate with them at first because they seemed like they were so fragile. But they're just tough little monkeys. And you gotta make sure that they've got nothing on them so they're nice and clean when they go back to bed. Okay, that's warm. Okay, you're always the stinkiest one. You're always covered in something. What is your problem, buddy? Yeah? Okay. There we go. I think you're good. How you feel? Do you feel cool? You feel sleepy. What did you say? You're sleepy? You want to go to bed now? Yeah?
So as you see, there were 3. And for those of you who know our pack, little Luna, the little sister there, raising 3 wolf dog pups was probably the most overwhelming thing we had ever done. And Luna fell in love with our friends, the director and his wife over at the rescue that we had originally been with. And so they offered to adopt her. And so she's living happily with them.
So then school begins. And again, we started seeing the similarities to wolves in the wild. So although these guys have all come from different places, the 2 puppies from one place and Kona from somewhere else and Taboo from somewhere else, they took over the role of alpha mama and big brother and started to teach the kids how to behave. So here's another short video for you guys to see how it went. So before, in every good wolf pack, of course, there is a nanny, right? And the nanny takes care of the puppies in the wild, and it's a very specialized job that they even audition for with the alpha female where she goes out and hunts, because they get to be the first ones to play with the puppies and teach them new stuff, just like a human family. And of course, at Apex, we had to have a nanny, and a nanny is sometimes an overwhelming job, as you can tell by the picture.
And what better role to play than a pit bull, because that, otherwise known as the nanny dog. So little Charlotte, who is also a rescue, fell right into that role comfortably, happily. She did a beautiful job. And when we rescued Charlotte, here's what's kind of fascinating is she's a little pit bull, but when she came at 8 months, she also was a lot younger than Taboo, and Taboo taught her a lot. So little Charlotte speaks wolf. She fits into the pack. She helped, raise the puppies. They still regard her as their, nanny, as you can see in this next slide.
She even howls with the pack, but we
yeah, it's not
the best howl, but
we don't tell her that.
We don't tell her that. But even to this day, they love each other.
So now, we've got our alpha, we've got our beta, we've got our puppies, we've got our nanny. We have this really well-balanced, happy pack that is getting along. There's no drama. Everybody knows their place. So now, we thought we'd show you what one of our daily hikes with this pack looks like at Apex.
Yeah, and just before we do this, I have to kind of say one of the biggest compliments we'd ever gotten was when Nicole Wild, our mentor, sent me a Facebook message and said, I see you guys like running in the hills with like 4 and 5 wolf dogs off leash. How are you doing that? I said, I read this book by Nicole Wild, and maybe you should read it. I don't know. So here we go.
So again, here we've got the perfect pack. Life is good. Everybody happy.
Knows their place.
Everybody knows their place.
Everything is wonderful. The world is funny.
Someone knows already.
And then came
Rick.
And everything goes sideways. Everything we had done in the years to work and work and work to get everybody balanced and everybody perfect goes completely out the window. Riggs comes along, and the boys are now 2 years old.
Kona's 3.
Loki wanting to be the boss of someone his entire life, and now he's got the chance. And, so he has no social skills. Look at
He's
that.
8 months old, so he's still a puppy. Really, I mean,
He's
for those of you who know
doorway.
Riggs. Really?
So he comes along, and technically, he should be the Omega. So in the older traditional wolf books, there was done an Isle Royale, which is in Michigan, where the wolves couldn't really leave or go very far, or a lot of the studies were captive bred wolves. The Omega played a bigger role. The Omega, technically the lowest ranking wolf, usually one of the youngest, but now in Yellowstone, with all the new studies that are coming out, according to Doug and Rick, the omega doesn't really exist that strongly anymore because an omega can just leave, right? It doesn't have to stay there. If they don't want to be the lowest ranking man, they can go find a mate and start a family of their own and become an alpha. So that's more the older traditional knowledge, and the newer knowledge is really saying that it's a little less than we've been reading about. But Riggs technically was the lowest man on the totem pole. He was the youngest, and he came in not knowing anything, so technically he should have been the omega. And in the 9 years that we've been rescuing now, he is the smartest animal we have ever met. Super, super smart. He's also very political, so he can play both roles. But he would prefer this one. But he can also play the other one too.
So, who's met Rick so far, or been able to observe him at some point? So he's got a lot of energy. He's still really young and has all that energy. What we're going to see in this is we're going to show you now, because when a wolf reaches about 2, kind of like having in captivity for us, it's been kind of like having a household of teenage boys. We're very male heavy. Taboo's our only female besides Charlotte. So we've got all of these boys around the same age, which would be like an 18-year-old. So it's definitely been a little bit of a phase where we've needed to, what's the word? Control. That we used to be able to just put them all together and they'd play, but now that they're a little older, there's a little more posturing, there's a little more competition. I'm the boss. No, you're not the boss. I'm the boss.
And so, our biggest philosophy at Apex is that even though these guys come from different walks of life, and in most rescues they don't have the time because we're a little smaller and we're hands-on all the time, and a lot of rescues are much bigger. So they put them in pairs, male and female generally, not usually 2 males, not usually 2 females, is usually the best bet for both male and female. What we firmly believe is the pack is an incredibly healing thing for them. And integrating some of these animals from different walks of life into a pack because they weren't born together is much more difficult. So we take, and it's a little more risky too, but we do take that risk, and sometimes it changes when a pup ages out and gets a little older, their dynamics change, a new animal comes in, it all goes south again, and then you start again. But in we call the good old days, we just let everybody out, we'd all go. Now we have to introduce them one at a time every morning. So they all live in, some live together, some don't. So this is our morning ritual. I'm just going to quickly explain what it is so you can actually look for it in the video. But what's interesting is the hierarchy dynamic of a captive bred pack and how it still operates. But every morning we have to reestablish that because Kona and Riggs live together, but Thor and Loki and Boo live together. So when we put them together into the turnout, they have to rearrange their hierarchy once again. And Kona is the beta, of course, and he's in charge, and Boo's just the alpha mom, and she just looks on and watches. So what you're going to see is we've already put Riggs and Loki into the turnout to let them work out their stuff. Once they've decided that Loki's still the boss, or he thinks he is, and Riggs has convinced him that he is, then they'll go off and play together, and they're fine. So we just watch. As soon as that's done, then we bring in Kona, the beta, and everybody wants to greet Kona. As soon as they've greeted Kona, everybody, and then we bring Thor in. Now when Thor comes in, he's now with his brother, so now they're brave, so now they're going to chase after Riggs. So they're going to chase Riggs around for a little while, and then Riggs is going to get annoyed with them and escape, and then eventually they're all going to calm down, they're all going to go to greet Kona. Kona's going to put his mouth over everyone's head and tell them that he really is the boss, and Loki's going to keep sticking his nose in and trying to piss everybody off. Excuse my French. And then they're all going to finally calm down, and then, they're all going to greet Boo, and say hi, they'll give her a little nudge, you'll see the body language, and then they're going to calm down, and then as soon as they're calm, I'm sitting on top of the hill with the camera, Kona will come up to greet me, as soon as he knows that he's the king of his domain and everything's cool, and then you'll just see him get all goofy, like he's very serious, and then when he comes to run to me, he just turns into a little puppy again, and then as he's greeting me, you'll see Riggs be Riggs, and say, I want some of this, so you'll kind of get it as you watch it.
Riggs is really, truly like the stinky little brother.
Hi, buddy. Hi. Hi. Are you the man? Are you the man? Are you the boss of those kids? Yeah. It's a lot of work, isn't it? It's a lot of work. So, uh-oh. Here comes trouble. Not on me, please. Goofball. Ah, you're a goofball. Gentle, please. Gentle, please. Really? You can't just let me and Kona have a little peace and quiet, huh? I'm not a wolf, that hurts. Ow. Okay, gentle, please. Ow, 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 ow. Ah. Jeez. What a brat. You're a brat. Do you know that?
And of course, we realize that, I mean, we're presenting very generalized behavioral things. We just wanted you to see an idea of just you see all the similarities and how intricate the communication is, and how they really, even though they're not related, are respecting this hierarchy and this new pact that they've adopted for each other, which we just find is fascinating.
And everyone lived happily ever after. That's our presentation. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Betsy, you wanna do your thing? With
Oh, here.
I was just going to ask if
One,
you
two.
have ear guards made, you know?
Oh, I should, yeah. We all have black eyes and bloody noses, and most of the girls look like Angelina Jolie because they keep biting their lips.
We feel like it's free, why not? You know, now just get the bottom lip. But that's why he's named Riggs, because he's a lethal weapon. He would literally, he was so feral and so high energy and wild that he would be so excited to greet us that he would literally come running and just throw himself, fly through the air at our faces, not realizing that we don't have the scruff and the, you know, and just, you know, bonk us in the head. Oh my goodness. But you know, they do. It's a lot of mouthing and greeting of each other in their world. And it's actually quite gentle. You know, it looked like he was chewing on Steve, but it's really quite gentle, and there's a lot of teeth on each other, but it's not meant to hurt, and it does hurt us sometimes because we're a lot more sensitive. But that might not be a bad idea to get you some earmuffs.
How old were Loki, Thor, and Luna when you introduced them to the older wolf dogs?
We started when they were maybe a couple of months old and moving around well. We actually would carry them out and introduce them through the fence so that Kona could sniff
They
them.
had a little X pen, so they met them kind of.
Taboo, she lives in the house with us, and so she was introduced fairly quickly. But we didn't know how Kona would respond to such tiny beings, even though they are, you know, wolf dog pups. And he's a very gentle creature. We do know that about him. So, you know, introducing through the fence and getting used to the smell and everything. And then he started observing them running in what we call the backyard, you know, running around and playing there. And then slowly, you know, we started taking them on the hikes and everything on leash like that, and then letting them off leash. Yes? Sure.
When did Sarge come along? We didn't see any pictures of him.
So yeah, so for the purpose of the story, Sarge came along actually between, there's also Merlin at home, and Merlin doesn't socialize with everyone, and Sarge doesn't socialize with all of them. So that's why we didn't put Sarge in. Sarge is actually friends with Thor and Loki. They're his best buds, and he's kind of like their big uncle, and he plays with them a little bit. I mean, he started to play, he's kind of a grumpy old uncle sometimes, and they get in his nerves, but he hangs out with them, and sometimes he hangs out with Boo, but he refuses to bend the knee, so Boo gets a little mad at him sometimes. He's very alpha-like and sometimes challenges her in that way, and then sometimes she loves him. I can't figure it out. These kids.
She's a typical woman. You know?
Yeah, so they sometimes get along, sometimes don't. And then Merlin is not really integrated into the pack because he has some social issues, I would say. He's a very sweet boy, but he doesn't play well with others. So Sarge came after the boys and before Riggs.
Right. So Sarge came June, and then was it the following year that Riggs came in December?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, because Sarge had the broken leg and had to go through the surgery and recovery and all of that. So.
Anyone else?
Get one here first.
Mm.
What's the update on the plate in Sarge's leg repair?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. So for those of you who don't know, we rescued Sarge from a really intense situation, and I'll just be very brief, but he did have his back right leg had snapped in half. And most rescues in the country are kind of like us. They're very small, mom and pop-ish, I should say, and rely on donations from, their community. And everyone knew this was going to be an extraordinary surgery. But because of his story, and I don't know what it was, but we fell in love with him, and no one was stepping forward to take him, and he only had like 4 days before they were taking him to the pound to be euthanized, and I just looked at Steve and I said, I am not on my watch.
Look at that face.
We will make it
Look
work.
at that face. You're gonna let that face die? Am I supposed to
And
say?
yeah, I mean, you gotta pull out the stops, right? So Sarge did have a broken leg. We did get him into surgery right away, and $10,000 later, with our nonprofit discount, he had a titanium plate put in there. And it was a
Thank you,
6
Barbara,
hour
Sally,
surgery.
Thora, and you
Yeah,
know who you are in this room.
There are some ladies in this room that saved his life, and we're really, really grateful for it. And the recovery time obviously took a long time.
So I'll quickly tell you the latest update.
I want to tell him.
I
Yeah.
just got the doctor's email.
Okay.
No, you do it.
No, you.
No, you do it.
Okay, I'll do it. We took him to the vet before we brought him here because he's been playing a lot with Loki, and he's been learning some new moves. And even though we've been exercising him and building up his body, and he's running through the hills chasing rabbits, he did not wrestle. And Loki, who's 2, has been teaching him to wrestle, and he's been pushing himself a little bit. And like all of us who are a little bit older, he strained a muscle. So we took him, he had a little bit of limping going on. We took him to the vet to make sure what was going on. We wanted to make sure, is this a strain? Is this something going on? So we had his whole body x-rayed to make sure everything's going well in there. Turns out that for the last year, the titanium plate has actually been snapped in half. And we didn't know. And, but the good news is that the bone is completely grafted and very strong and healthy. He has he's just pulled a muscle because he's been playing too rough, so he's not allowed to play with Loki for a month, but he was given clearance to come to Sedona because she wasn't concerned. And we also tested for any kind of infection in there because apparently with titanium plates you can get some infection. And Steve just got the word day before yesterday that he's free and clear. So he's
if he had an infection there, they would have to take the plate out, which means they would have to take the screws out and leave the holes in there, and they would have to heal again. It would be another surgery, and at his age, she didn't think unless it was an infection, it was worth taking it out because it's not doing any harm. So he's doing great, and we just found out that there's no infection and he's healthy.
Thanks for checking in on him.
That's cool. Yes.
I was interested in watching the nanny dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed at the beginning, when the pups were small, they all got along beautifully, they were very gentle. And then in the later section, I saw them all chasing one another, roaring all over the hills.
Mm-hmm.
And I was then concerned about the other dog, the nanny dog, because her fur is not as thick as the wolves.
That's
and yet
true.
she seemed to tumble right along with them.
She does.
Concerned for her comfort and safety.
No, because they love her, and she's a little tank, and she does have a couple of scars on her head. But it's really her fault, because she just throws herself in the middle of that. But no, I mean, the only time she gets scars on her head is not because they're trying to hurt her, it's maybe they cut her with a tooth when they're playing so rough. But she doesn't care. She just loves wrestling with them and playing with them, and then she goes and snuggles with them later. So, no, she's actually a tough little dog, and yeah, they do play rough, but she can take it. So. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Are any of them, are we just seeing them all outside?
So we have the ambassador pack outside for Wolf Social Time and time with Nate Blakesley, writer of American Wolf.
Who, by the way, he doesn't know I'm going to do this, has arrived.
Oh, well, hello!
So Nate's going to join you guys outside for the Wolf Social, and if you haven't bought your ticket tonight, and many people have, Nate, you're going to hear this incredible story about the book American Wolf and 06, who was tragically killed outside the borders of Yellowstone. If you listen to Wolves of the Rockies, this is a perfect segue into that, and I've read the book, and it's amazing.
I read it 3 times.
He read it 3 times.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. So if you haven't bought your tickets for the book, please do so. And in the meantime, please join Apex outside for a Wolf Social for those of you who have tickets for it, because we are sold out for that.
If you don't have tickets, you're welcome to come and observe, and that's almost as fun.
Yes, yes. And thank you very much, you guys.
Thanks, and thank you for supporting Sedona Wolf Week, guys. We're really happy to have you.
Thank you.